Imagine owning a computer in the 1970s. Not a smartphone, not a laptop, not a device connected to billions of others around the world. Just a computer. Alone. Isolated. Silent. You could type on it, calculate with it, store information on it, but you couldn't easily share that information with another computer. Because computers had a problem. They were brilliant machines, but they didn't know how to communicate. Then, inside a research laboratory in Palo Alto, a group of engineers solved that problem. And in doing so, they helped lay the foundation for the connected world we now take for granted. This is the story of Ethernet, the technology that taught computers how to talk to one another. Today, connectivity feels ordinary. Send a message, upload a file, join a video call, stream a movie, access information stored halfway around the world. Most people never stop to consider how extraordinary this really is. Because for much of computing history, computers operated alone. They weren't part of networks. They weren't continuously exchanging information. They weren't participating in a global digital ecosystem. They were islands. Powerful islands. But islands nonetheless. The future of computing depended on connecting them. The story begins at one of the most influential research laboratories in history, Xerox PARC, the Palo Alto Research Center. If you've been following the Bay origin story, you've already encountered this remarkable institution. PARC helped pioneer graphical user interfaces, laser printing, object-oriented software concepts, network computing. Again and again, researchers there imagined the future before the rest of the world could see it. During the early 1970s, PARC engineers faced a practical challenge. The laboratory was creating increasingly sophisticated computing systems, personal computers, workstations, printers, research devices. The problem was obvious. These machines needed a way to exchange information reliably. Without communication, much of their potential remained locked away. One researcher in particular became focused on the challenge, Robert Metcalfe. Metcalfe understood that computing's future would depend on connectivity. The question wasn't simply, how do we build better computers? The question was, how do we connect them? This shift in thinking was profound. Because the value of a network grows as more participants join. One computer is useful. 2 connected computers are more useful. 1,000 connected computers create entirely new possibilities. Metcalfe was helping pioneer the infrastructure for that future. In 1973, Metcalfe developed a new networking technology at Xerox PARC, Ethernet. Its purpose sounds simple. Allow multiple computers to communicate over a shared network. But simplicity can be deceptive. The challenge involved reliability, coordination, scalability, standardization. How could multiple machines share the same communication channel? How could information move efficiently? How could the system continue functioning as networks expanded? Ethernet provided an elegant solution. And perhaps most importantly, it worked. One reason Ethernet became so important is that it wasn't designed as a consumer product. Nobody bought Ethernet because it was exciting. Most users never even saw it. Ethernet was infrastructure, and history often overlooks infrastructure. People remember railroads less than the cities they connected. They remember highways less than the destinations they enabled. They remember power plants less than the devices they power. Yet infrastructure changes the world. Because infrastructure creates possibilities. Ethernet became one of those enabling technologies, a foundation upon which countless future innovations would depend. One of the biggest misconceptions about computing history is that Ethernet created the Internet. It didn't. The Internet emerged through contributions from many organizations. DARPA, ARPANET researchers, TCP, IP developers, universities, private companies. Ethernet played a different role. Think of it this way. The Internet is a global transportation system. Ethernet is one of the roads. TCP, IP helps information travel between networks. Ethernet helps devices communicate within networks. Different layers, different functions, both essential. The Internet required many innovations working together. Ethernet became one of the most successful and influential of those innovations. Like many Bay Area breakthroughs, Ethernet didn't remain confined to a laboratory. Robert Metcalfe later founded a company called 3Com. Its mission was to help commercialize Ethernet technology. Once again, we see a familiar Silicon Valley pattern. Research generates an idea. Entrepreneurs commercialize it. The market scales it. Over time, Ethernet became the dominant local area networking standard throughout the world. Businesses adopted it. Universities adopted it. Homes adopted it. Billions of devices would eventually rely on Ethernet-derived networking technologies. And most users never realized it. Because the best infrastructure often becomes invisible. The real significance of Ethernet wasn't technical, at least not entirely. Its significance was social, economic, civilizational. Once computers could reliably communicate, entirely new possibilities emerged. Shared information, distributed work, digital collaboration, networked organizations, cloud computing, the modern internet economy. The connected world became possible because the connections themselves became practical. The devices mattered, but the network mattered more. A computer alone is a tool. A network of computers becomes a platform, and platforms change history. Throughout Bay Origins, we've explored how the Bay Area repeatedly created enabling technologies. The gold rush required transportation networks. Wells Fargo created financial networks. Stanford created talent networks. Semiconductor pioneers created computing platforms. Ethernet extended the pattern. It wasn't a flashy consumer product. It wasn't a household brand. It was infrastructure. The invisible foundation that allowed countless other innovations to flourish. And perhaps that's one of Silicon Valley's greatest strengths. Not simply creating products, but creating systems that make entirely new categories of products possible. Which brings us back to the question at the heart of Bay Origins. Why did it happen here? Perhaps because the Bay Area repeatedly produced people who understood that the future isn't built by isolated breakthroughs. It's built by connections. The innovator's ledger. Lesson 1. Infrastructure creates more value than most people realize. Ethernet wasn't designed to be famous. It was designed to be useful. The most transformative innovations often enable other innovations. Ask yourself, am I building a product or building a platform? Lesson 2. Networks multiply capability. A single computer is powerful. Connected computers are exponentially more powerful. The same principle applies to organizations, teams, and ecosystems. Connections create leverage. Lesson 3. The best technology often disappears. Most people never think about Ethernet. That may be its greatest achievement. When infrastructure works perfectly, it becomes invisible. The strongest systems often receive the least attention. Ethernet transformed computing by connecting previously isolated machines. What disconnected people, systems, or industries could create enormous value if they were connected together. The modern world runs on networks. Networks of computers, networks of people, networks of ideas. In the early 1970s, a group of researchers in Palo Alto helped make those digital connections possible. And while most users never see Ethernet, they experience its impact every day. Because before the internet could connect the world, computers first had to learn how to talk. This is Bay Origins, birthplace of the future.